Hello, everybody. It's John Kranz with Compass Games. I want to welcome you here tonight to episode number 38 of Compass Games Live. Number keeps climbing. And again, today's Thursday, August 13th. It's a pleasure to have you here. As we do every other 2 weeks, we'll be here always trying to highlight a certain designer and some games they're working on. And tonight is no exception. We'll be joined shortly by Gregory M. Smith, who's done several titles already with Compass Games, and we're going to focus tonight discussing several titles that he's working on now. And I actually have two of them above me here. So we have Defending America, which is actually going to be the next release coming from Gregory Smith. And then up above me here, we're also going to talk about and check in on the Imperial Tide, a strategic World War I project as well. So we're going to have a few games to cover with Greg tonight, so the action is going to be fast and furious, especially when you throw in your questions. I want to welcome everybody I see commenting online, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook already. I see Dan from No Enemies here, Aerospace Tom, Robert, Richard, Mo. Good to have you, Mo. So great to have such a big group here, nearly already at 50 people live, which is great support. So we appreciate having you all here. So just recap where we are with Compass Games. And of course, we get into more of the internal company information behind the scenes, what's happening. We do that also every other week with Bill Thomas, and that's our town hall meetings. And we do those every Thursday night. We'll be doing town hall number 5 next Thursday on the 20th. But in the meantime, I just want to go through, again, just the customary things I like to cover before we start with each episode, and that is, again, please visit our homepage. You'll see our schedule's been updated. You'll notice that Red Poppies Campaigns Volume 3, which is Assault Artillery, was just released a few days ago. We put out the newsletter announcement yesterday for that. Some of you have already received the game from what I'm seeing from social media posts, so very excited. It's volume number 3 in the Red Poppies campaign series, so really excited to be supporting that series. And you'll notice on the left column for upcoming titles, we do have a specific release date set for Commands and Colors Tricorn, Jacobite Rising. That's going to be on August 31st. So just a little bit more than 2 weeks from now, that will be our second game release for August. And we'd like to average 2 game releases per month. So you can also see from our release schedule, we have 2 releases slated for September: Dawn's Early Light, which was one of our Kickstarter campaigns, and then the Korean War, which is the designer signature edition by Joseph Bukowski, which was originally published in the 80s by Victory Games. So again, just want to make sure you're aware of the schedule. Also, again, the big yellow box on the left side, the newsletter, please just enter your email address, confirm you're a human being, and we'll get you subscribed, and we'll get an email to you once a week with the latest going on. We'll have specials in there, etc., whenever we can as well. So please do that. Also, in the bottom right-hand corner, there's the Talk to Us, where I'm sort of waving at you there. That's a great way just to submit feedback or questions for Compass Games. And we go through those questions during our town hall meetings twice a month. So please feel free to just click that button. You can do a video or text message, which I'll get and respond back to you. And then we'll probably air those questions during our Compass Town Hall meeting. So regarding the newsletter, just want to show you the newsletter we sent out this week. Again, if you subscribe, you'll be getting this once a week at least. So we started by announcing Command and Colors Tricorn release date is set for August 31st. This is a standalone game. You don't need the original release of American Revolution to play this game, and it's featuring 13 battles along with some skirmish actions. Then, of course, the new game release, which people have started to receive, is Assault Artillery for Red Poppies Campaigns. And then we go through the 2 releases we have next month for September. Then, of course, we land on that famous square, which is where we are right now at this instance. We're doing Compass Games Live episode 38 with Gregory M. Smith. So we always like to get the word out on what our next broadcast is, which is this one, yours truly. And then we have we also have a recording of our Compass Games Town Hall. Actually, last week was number 5. This next week will be number 6. So I've already lost track. But you can watch the recording of our last town hall. And just a reminder, if you join us live for the town hall meetings, we're always going to give away a free board game if you go ahead and join. So that's the exciting part about getting you to join us and find out the latest happenings at Compass Games. So without further ado, I want to get to our featured focus for tonight, which is welcoming our guest, Gregory Smith. So there we go. There's Greg.
Oh, my life.
Oh, there you are. Just caught you at a bad time there, I guess.
No,
so
I'm good now.
You're all good now. So I think there's going to be probably a lot of questions for you today. And we've got a lot to cover, actually, because the plan is to cover 3 different game projects, to be honest. So
I've been busy, yes.
Very, very busy for sure. So what I want to do here quickly is I'm just looking off to the side. So sorry about that. I have to bring up a new window here so we can actually talk about some of these things. So I shouldn't have closed my browser window. So I'm going to share just for a moment so we can cover what we're going to be talking about, basically. So there's several titles. So the first one I want to talk about, and we'll just go there, as Defending America. So I'm just going to navigate there now. Take a quick look at the box. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where Defending America came from? I know it sort of has a theme tie-in with another game you recently had released. So I'll let you sort of give the overview of Defending America.
Well, again, this was a actually suggestion from Facebook fans said, oh, we need to be able to shoot down these America bombers. And I was like, this is actually my lockdown design. When this craziness all started, I was like, oh, all right. And so the guy said, I thought this would be great. We finally get to be the good guys, shoot down the Nazis for once instead of the other way around. And but the takeaway I got from America Bomber, Evil Queen of the Skies, which was another Facebook inspired project, was I spent a lot of time on the design simplifying and streamlining the combat. So because I've played 18 zillion tons of B-17, and some of it just got to be a bit tedious, like when you have 5 waves of 5 fuck wolves, and you're like, ah.
Can you remind us all again that this game does have its roots a little bit, I believe, in B-17 Queen of the Skies, right?
B-17 Queen of the Skies. Everybody who's into solitaire war games probably at some point is familiar with that, and myself included. And I thought one day, oh, let's just do the opposite. We'll do America Bomber, where the Germans are bombing New York and Chicago and the East Coast, and they actually had plans to do that. So
I like to remind everybody about that, that there's a history behind it, that it's not just this made up. It's not just made up.
They're not all just fantasy bombers. The blueprints for a lot of the America bombers were captured in 45, and they're like, whoa, these guys were going to come bomb us. Thankfully, of course, they never got the chance because they got the stuffing kicked out of them, but they actually had plans to do it. So I thought, alternate history, we'll have the Evil Queen of the Skies. It just cracked me up. The name was too cool, and they simplified the procedures. And I kind of had this epiphany, you know what? Because a lot of people love America Bomber, Evil Queen. And a simpler game, sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. And so I decided, well, somebody wants to shoot down the America Bomber, so we'll take it from the American side, and you're a fighter pilot, and you're going after these you're defending America from incoming waves of bombers.
Yeah.
So I took it from there. I did a lot of research. The really cool thing was it's a fascinating period of aviation history, because right at the end of the game theoretically happens in 1947-48. So it is alternate history to a degree, but almost all the aircraft in the game are actually historical or planned or have a historical basis.
I think that's been the one comment I've made the most on posting. So whether on social media, when they ask about the game, they say, oh, this is just sort of a trumped up, fantasy. And it's really, I bet you're up to get a book or something. But that comment comes a lot. Yeah. So here we go.
It was kind of the Bible for defending America. It's a fantastic book because it covers all these aircraft that are in the game, especially also the experimental ones. But right at the end of World War II, up until about 1950, you've got this transition period between jets. I mean, from prop to jets. And that's kind of what we're looking at in the game. And so it's a really neat mix of aircraft, F-86 Sabres and, P-80 Shooting Stars, FH-1s, FH-2s.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, the XP-67 Moonbat. It's kind of a weird beast. So there's all the aircraft have been researched. They are historical.
Yeah. And then, were there any new mechanics?
I had to put it together in a framework where you're shooting down these bombers. And then, it's got my usual narrative style, role-playing.
Yep.
You earn awards. You hopefully don't get too many Purple Hearts. You're assigned to a unit. You get promoted, and all that. So it's kind of neat, and it's simple. That's the other thing, too, is it's not... It harkens really back to the Hunters from the viewpoint of, you can run a mission or two and then put it away.
Yeah.
3 days later, after you've mowed the yard and the wife doesn't have any more honeydews for you, you can pull it back out.
Yeah.
Run another couple missions. So it has that nice property of reasonably small footprint, easy to set up, easy to take down, run a mission in 15 minutes. And then do something else. So
I had a quick question for you on this one. So since B-17 Queen of the Skies was around the bombers, like that was like America Bomber, that concept. This one's different though. This one's where you're trying to shoot down the bombers. So what's the game system tie-in? Like did B-17 have some of these mechanics? Because you're taking the different side here. You're actually trying to shoot down the bombers.
Yeah, I had to adjust the combat routines a little bit from Evil Queen, because in Evil Queen you're trying to survive, and it's like B-17 in the fact that you have this big bomber that can take a lot of damage and still keep on flying and hopefully drop your bombs. In this game, you're shooting those guys down, and you're not in a big bomber that can take a whole lot of damage. So from that aspect, it's a little bit closer to Interceptor Ace, from the viewpoint that, you're not flying around in something that can take a whole bunch of damage. Every damage you take when you're going in and strafing these bombers makes you evaluate, do I need to break off now and go home or not? Because these are reasonably fragile aircraft. They don't take a massive amount of firepower before they're shot down. So you really have to play it reasonably cautiously.
Gotcha. And then, do you have the author name besides the name of the book? And I'll focus in on you here. Oh, it hasn't focused in yet.
Enzo Angelucci.
Yeah, it's hard to make out. It's white on light gray. So yeah, okay, Enzo. There we go. Enzo Angelucci with Peter Bowers, and then the title again up top is
The American Fighter.
The American Fighter. So hopefully that's enough information to find it online. Yeah. There we go. The American Fighters, right? Robert also answered. So great. Well, let's do this. I want to, we have a lot to cover, so I want to switch gears for a moment. So let's.
It's a neat little game, though. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's oh gosh, we didn't talk about the status of the game. So my apologies. So basically, everything's done. We're just slapping a rules index on the rules on the back cover of the rules booklet, which I'm going to be doing here this week. So I know some of the components are already at the printers. I know that for sure. One small change, a nice thing we've done is in this game, we took the air operations map, and it's going to have a little thicker, more durable type of backing. So it's going to stand out and have a thicker backing than any other of the other components. So the operations map sort of is the focal point of the components. So we upped the game a little bit there as far as that component. So we did a little upgrade on that piece and for the map. And then, everything box is done and counters have been printed. And so really we're just getting the last pieces in. So this one's going to be shipping, Bill's a little tricky. He's got all his games in the warehouse that he likes to talk about and show that he doesn't ship. But yeah, this game obviously will be shipping fairly soon. It will definitely be this year. So it's already at the printers is how I would basically summarize where we're at. But let's switch gears from, I guess, post-World War II or continuation of it. Let's talk a little bit here about Imperial Tide, and actually I have added a lot of graphics to the web page today. So everybody, if you know about Imperial Tide, World War I strategic, Greg's going to talk about it here in a moment. I just want to walk you through some of the components you'll find on the website for it now that we've added. And actually, I can't do justice with the map. I've actually done a blown up of the map, which I'll show separately. But I've got back of the box here so you can get an idea about the cards in the game. You can see a little bit about the map, a pretty good description of everything going on. I'm not going to spend details on that now. We've got two counter sheets. Again, this is produced overseas with the mounted map, so it's got the nice rounded. Of course, the borders that you see here aren't on the actual counter sheet. That's just sort of a proofing version, but you've got the nice rounded punch out counters, and there's actually two sheets. So there's one side there, and here's the front of site counter sheet number 2. So we've got 2 counter sheets in there, and then there's a lot of playing cards, obviously. So I'll just pull up one for now. Again, we can talk about what it means with the year at the bottom. What's the A? Solitaire mode, A for aggressive. The cost to play the card, etc. We'll definitely talk about that. But what I really want to show is the game map. I really think people are going to be interested to see that. So here we can see right here. I'll try to make it as big as I can on screen. Matter of fact, I can just sort of focus on it for everybody for a moment. So this is a mounted game map. So, top quality. All our Compass Games products, if they're a one map game, they're going to be mounted. They are produced overseas. So that's why we got those thick rounded corner counters already. But yeah, I love the map. Can you talk a little bit about what we're seeing here on the map, Greg? Can you sort of tell us what this game's about while we focus on the game map?
Sure. As I suspect a lot of other folks, my first World War I strategic game was literally called World War I. The old SPI folio, the little one. I think it came in the magazine first before they made it. I love it, where you never really moved anywhere. You burned off people points via combat, and you eventually ran out of people. Very grim, but love that little thing. And I thought, a big fan of Paths of Glory.
Yeah. Oh, Paths of Glory. It's got a huge following. Paths of Glory.
And, obviously a big fan of that. Played a ton of that. But my problem with Paths of Glory, not that it isn't awesome, it's just that it takes a bit longer than I would personally like. And so my objective was to make a World War I game that you could do in an evening, and not spend 5 or 6 or 7 hours, grinding your way through that. So it's one map, limited footprint. You could do it in an evening, but it's still card driven. So in that sense, yes, it does. It's actually a bigger scale than Paths of Glory, larger. And it's not so much that, it's not trying to redo Paths of Glory. I just wanted something that would be a bit faster to play, and you could crank out the whole war in an evening rather than have a longer thing. There's only 24 cards per side. Anybody who's familiar, it is 2-player. I realize I am Greg Smith, but yes, this is a 2-player game. But
it has a solitaire bot as well for solitaire play.
Anybody's familiar with Pacific Tide or Ostkrieg will understand the card rebuy system, where you get the current year's cards for free, and then you have an option to rebuy whatever cards you like out of previous years. So that adds a lot of strategy to it. But it is strategic level, not overly complex, I wouldn't say, but where the complexity comes in is deciding.
I think that's sort of
in what sequence.
And that's the question August had. I'll bring up his question again. So I think you've covered this question already. You answered it you talked about some of the differences.
It's a different scale. It's cleaner, faster, simpler to play, but you still have as many decisions. But if takes you more than 3.5 hours, 3 to 3.5 hours to play it, you're playing it wrong. You're agonizing too much over your cards. Whereas, it is similar to Paths of Glory in a lot of respects, and I mean, I understand that. I wasn't trying to supplant Paths of Glory, but it's really intended to be an alternative, something you can crank out in an evening, as opposed to something that might take 6 hours.
And that's worth mentioning. So just let everybody know.
Flavius has got it on. I agree with Flavius's point there 100%. So that's basically
so everybody knows when we talk about future game projects and ideas you have, et cetera, and what we want to see happen after Pacific Tide, which has been, obviously, how well was it received? Well, we sold out and it's back on, reprints.
Really? Oh, good.
On back on pre-order because we're out of stock. But yeah, but
I wonder, why did I call this Imperial Tide? I kind of wanted to tie into the previous game's name of Pacific Tide.
Yep.
And it's like the tidal wave of German troops swarming into Belgium in 1914, I guess. But the other reason it's called Imperial Tide is because literally every name you could conceivably try to think of for a World War I game has already been taken. So I'm pretty sure Imperial Tide's original. So there it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And then good question. Good question from thanks, Rohan, for your comment, and great to have you dialing in from Australia. Really appreciate it. So yeah, Solitaire rating, that actually came up with Pacific Tide because Greg does a lot of Solitaire games, and I think Pacific Tide was one of his first 2-player games. And during development, we had the discussion about Solitaire, and everybody knows this from our town hall meetings. That's the one thing that Bill asked me about a game. Is if it's 2-player or multiplayer. He asked me, famous, everybody knows the answer. The plot's been given up. He asked me, how's the Solitaire rating, or can it be?
We could be honest. You held a gun to my head and said, you got to put Solitaire in. And I was like, okay. And then I'm so glad you did that because it really turned out nicely. But yeah, so this has a bot in it, essentially just like the Pacific Tide bot, in so much that if you could pull a card back up, your opponent, which is yourself. Yeah, exactly, Tom. That was the design objective. We made it. But your bot opponent is rated either A, B, or D. So A is
for Solitaire, right? The Solitaire bot.
D is defensive, and that personality might change as the war continues. But that affects what cards the bot will play. So my personal feelings on the bots are, if you have a bot that's so tedious and so painful that it's excruciating to use, it's kind of defeats the purpose. And so what I like to see in a bot is you combine general guidance, just sort of general guidance, so you know how to play or what your opponent is thinking. And then you also have specific guidance, but just don't make the specific guidance so time consuming or overwhelming that it ruins the experience. So the bot is more of a general guidance kind of thing. There are some specific rules for card play, again, tying into this aggressive, defensive, or balanced opponent, depending on which the bot currently is. And it works out pretty well. So you can solitaire it. I've solitaired a lot of this game, actually, and cursed my dice many times.
And then for the uninitiated that do not have Pacific Tide or are waiting for the reprint, can you give an elevator pitch on the game system, how it basically works? Like how many, like in a sample turn?
Yeah, the system's very strategic. And it works well, curiously enough, for 5-year wars. Seems to work pretty well, 4 or 5 years. But it works for systems that have production. So obviously, the America in World War II against the Japanese had production. So in Pacific Tide, you got production points. The Japanese have production points, not as much. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of each year, 41 being the exception. There is no production that one. You just go with what you got. But at the start of each new year, you get cards for free. So if it's 1943, I get all the 1943 cards, and it lists the year at the bottom of the card for free. But then I get to choose. I have to figure out, what do I need or what do I think I need from the 1941 cards and the 1942 cards. But you only have X amount of production, so you're not able to rebuy every card. So you have to make decisions on what cards to rebuy. And that is the crux of the game. Obviously, some cards are, infantry builds, put 3 infantry points in Pearl Harbor or Marines. Some cards are pretty important to rebuy. You'll probably figure that out, magic intercepts. But overall, there are decisions to be made there, and that's kind of the heart of the game. Is that
what are the decisions though for World War I? Since we're talking about Imperial Tide, so what would you say? So those that play the game for the first time, Imperial Tide, when they get it, what are they going to be facing in a 2-player situation?
There's a lot of decisions. First off, you have tactical, operational decisions. Not only where to attack, but when. So which is basically is card play. So sequencing of cards is critical. So what card do I play first? Or do I play this other card and sort of cede the initiative to my opponent because I'm setting up for something later? So card play is critical, and then where you attack with the cards that allow you to attack is critical, and when. When do you entrench once you're finally allowed to, which is later on in 1914. You're not allowed to entrench right off the bat. So all that's really important. And then later on, as the years go by, the card rebuy can be tricky because on a certain point, you have to rebuy the cards that give you more forces. But if you have too much of that, you won't have enough cards that give you attacks and what I call tricks, stuff like poison gas and airplanes, air support. So it's a balancing act, and you have to really consider what you want to do in the next upcoming year.
All right, I'm going to give away the plot now. So I'm gonna ruin everybody's. Everybody has this Greg. They're just like pie in the sky, wonderful designer. So I'm gonna burst everybody's bubble now, because Jack is saying, oh, playability over everything, reasonable amount of time. So to give away now, let's really talk about the real Greg Smith. So what is your favorite war game that you haven't designed? So let's juxtapose Jack's statement about playability and importance of reasonable amount of time with your favorite war game that you have not designed. Which one is that?
That's really dirty, dude, because he asked me before the show started what my favorite
That's why I'm asking you now, because Jack just gave me a low, slow curveball to hit out of the park right here.
Without question, I think it would be War in Europe with a
small, easy game. Yeah, only a few hours. War in Europe, SPI, 7 maps, whatever, 9 maps.
I think, didn't Dunnigan say it's not complicated, it's just there's a lot of it. I am a gamer, Jack, and that's always been important to me, is that if it's so tedious you don't want to play it, it's just a $40-50 shelf ornament. Right. So, I'm a gamer. And so I've always felt that playability is really important. And if you're not having fun, you're not playing the game, you're not having fun. There's a certain amount of fun to be had in research, but but I appreciate that comment. Thank you very much. I
hear from a lot of gamers. They say, a lot of gamers tell me, or I see online comments, I just don't have time to do these games where it takes a week or 2 to learn the rules, and I need something more manageable. Have you shifted in that manner yourself, or is this more from a design focus? That's really your design focus, but as far as game playing, you still have the same love for bigger games.
I'm older, so I'm a little less interested in, pulling out the rules to Highway to the Reich and memorizing the whole book kind of thing, like I did in college. I'd say probably I've shifted a little bit my personal tastes towards stuff that can actually be played.
Okay.
That are reasonable to play.
All right, Richard. So I asked some general questions here for you, and I saw another one upstream earlier I'll get to.
Yeah.
Richard on Facebook's asking your favorite tactical game system.
Probably Squad Leader, although I gave up on it.
Advanced Squad Leader or the original, or like there's
original, and then I got back into it with the starter kits, but probably, we'll see. Tactical, we're talking tactical. And Ogre probably doesn't count. Ogre and GEV. Yeah, probably Squad Leader. I mean, I played so much Squad. I didn't even want to admit to you how much Squad Leader I played. So, but it got to the point, and actually that was probably a good influence on me, because I think it actually got to the point where when I got fed up with Squad Leader was the point where I realized, you know, if you have to go through 300 calculations to kill some guy, whereas in another game, you actually get roughly the same results, but you only had to roll 2 dice once. You know, what does it gain a man to, you know, more detail doesn't necessarily equate to more realism.
That reminds me of your hunter system that you've done, you know, so many variations of, and Ian Cooper doing Raiders of the Deep for World War I, that, yeah, there could be a lot more detail and can go through every little thing. I know there's a big popular game called U-Boat, the board game, which has like an app. It recommends having an app just to manage.
Is that the one where you put together the actual little
U-boat? Yeah. It's got the actual side cut out, and it's people. I saw some comments last week. People said, "Oh, they really like it and they love the detail," but it's not something you get into in an afternoon. It's you really have to sort of live it for a bit, but it's not overly complex. It's just it's got a lot of moving parts to it. Here's a question for you here about solo versus multiplayer, or maybe 2-player. Throw in 2-player.
I definitely enjoy. I had fun with Imperial Tide, so that's kind of doesn't count. I actually enjoy this designing solitaire games more, I think, because it's more of a challenge. To me, the fun is the challenge of representing a historical situation reasonably historically, but in a playable manner. And so you have to make abstractions, and a lot of it's complicated. But you have to boil that down to something a player can grasp onto and feel like he's in the situation, making the same decisions a commander makes. But it's not, you know, it's doable, it's playable. And so for me, the fun is, you know, I get the most enjoyment out of designing solo games for sure, because of the fact I get to, you know, solve these puzzles mentally and put it all together. And so that's kind of cool.
I wonder with I think a lot of your games.
What did Mo say?
Which one, Richard? You mean, or the one before?
No, one before. And thank you, Richard, for that.
Jack was commenting. Oh, it was Mo. Sorry, Mo commented. Maurice Fitzgerald said, "Yeah, easier games on the table faster." And then Jack was commenting earlier.
Sure.
Yeah, about that. Yeah. And then this comment reminds me that, you know, you've got some great games for like tournament style play, like WBC. I think it'd be really interesting if there was sort of, you know, along the lines of a WBC tournament.
They could do that, I think. I mean, it's less time to play than the one I always play at WBC, and that's Russian campaign. Oh my gosh. I played 18 games of Russian campaign.
Oh, yeah?
7 years ago. I was like,
there you go. Yeah, it's a great game.
Anyway, that's a personal story. Sorry.
And then have you played Guns of August since we're talking?
So okay. I can't, Jim, I'm sorry, I can't talk to that point.
And we have a game actually that is like Guns of August, but blown up to like 3 full-size maps by the same designer. So if you're interested in Guns of August and want to see, I wonder if I could search it out real quick, because I can't keep track of all the titles of games we have. Somebody's going to type in for me. What's the Guns of August game we have? That's basically, it's an update of that game. Oh gosh, I'm not going to find it. I'm not going to.
I'm sorry. I just, you know.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. Somebody, Mo's going to bail me out. There's a. Oh man, I can't believe I can't remember. I'm just drawing a blank. But there's a wonderful game that's like 3-map setup, and it's basically that game, Guns of August, but you know, more of a mini monster version of it. So sorry, I'm just drawing a stupid blank right now for some reason. Okay, Empires and Alliance, not Empires and Alliances, actually. Okay, hold on. That's another. We've got a lot of World War I games, guys. That's why I'm having a lot of trouble. So let me double check this one. Yes, that's correct. It is Empires and Alliances. So to not embarrass myself overly, let me show. See if I can actually show it really quickly. So here's Empires and Alliances. So Guns of August, same designer. Here we go. Empires and Alliances. It's a much bigger game. I think it's like 3 maps all together. But it is like Guns of August, basically, but just, you know, bigger, more grand, playthrough of it, again by the same designer, Rob Bama, who did the Avalon Hill version. So,
Yeah.
Man, thanks for bailing me out there. So kudos for bailing me out, Jim.
I really, Jim, it looks like something I'd like, though.
Yeah, I mean, well, you said you like Operation Typhoon too, which is like 3 maps like this one
Yeah.
is, and pretty simple, not too complicated. So let's switch gears to what everybody I think has on their mind tonight is, and I hate to disappoint everybody. Yes, I don't have a box preview or anything like that for Western Front Ace. We haven't done the box art yet, but Greg's off to get something, I think. So what do you got? You can't have the box art yet because I haven't seen it. But for Western Front,
here's the fake box art. There you go.
Oh, let me see if I can zoom in on you here. Hold on. Yeah. So there's your rolls cover. So we don't know what it's going to look like quite yet. However, but I do want to give everybody an update on this.
Prototype does exist.
Well, let's talk about how big this project is. This is clearly your biggest.
Yeah, this is going to be my what do you call it? Nay plus ultra. I don't know. It's without question my largest solitaire game ever in scope and in physical components, no less. 42 aircraft that the player can fly.
Yeah.
There's I don't know, I think 22 aircraft that are AI driven as required, 2-seaters, typically known as targets. And you can fly 7 different nationalities. 8 if you include the fact that the British Navy, the RNAS is different than the RFC. So, Brits, Germans, obviously Austro-Hungarians, Italians, French, Americans, Belgians, and somebody else I forget. Maybe that's it. So yes, ever since Stuka Joe interviewed me at Consim, I think that was 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. And he put up the video about the game, and it's just been wow. I had no idea there was, it's what's a bigger integer, grains of sand on the beach or World War I airplane fans? I think it's the other one. Unbelievable. So the response has been awesome, and that's good. But it's a lot of artwork. I mean, 42 planes. And actually, there's going to be more than 42. There's going to be about 46 because the artist is like, how dare I have the British and French version of the same airplane on the same mat? We're going to have separate mats, one for each nationality, even though it's the same airplane. I'm like, all right, Ian, God bless you. So, yeah, kind of like Rick Tobin's War on Steroids. But it's the lineage, the DNA is most closely aligned, I would say, with Interceptor Ace. So you've got plane versus plane is the heart of the game. Oh, hey, you got a chart from Ian. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up a few charts here. So I'll let everybody, a little bit of drool factor here. Let me zoom in so everybody can first take in as large as I can make it. I want to share with you.
Publicly shout out to Jeremy White. Those of you may know some of his games, the Dam Busters, the Doolittle Raid, that guy. I met Jeremy at Consim, and like 5 minutes later, he had already improved my game. He said, like, oh yeah, you need to put in advanced maneuvers, which is, you see it up there on the
left side under the Kreutz.
So, yeah, by the way, Jeremy White is a genius. But yes, so here I am thinking I'm so cool with my design, and in 5 minutes flat, he improves it. So
can you walk us through what this display is tracking? I know it's
look at the upper left. That's just your current base. Opposing base is the nearest enemy base that's across the trench line.
Oh, we got to answer this question first. Sorry, I didn't introduce the game properly.
Oh, it is Solitaire.
Yeah, so this is Richard. This is a Solitaire. Greg cannot escape it. Greg is probably best known for.
You can Solitaire it. It is you supposed to Solitaire it. So
yeah, it is. It is designed. It is designed specifically as a Solitaire game.
And of course, there will be rules for 2-player, but basically that's not the primary focus. The design is focused on Solitaire play. So you've got your bases. That just tells you where you're at. what your current mission is. You look on the other side, there's boxes for random events, which happens sometimes.
Yep.
You have a certain amount of endurance related to your fuel, of course, which means actually you could just hang out in a box and just burn fuel, you know, circling whatever. So you can loiter if you want an area. But you in the center, dead center there, you see your mission, you take off, you're in friendly territory. Then you fly over no man's land. Then you're over enemy territory, and you might go as far as the enemy base if it's a bomber escort mission. But normally you wouldn't. A lot of the missions are what they call line patrol, where they're just kind of fighting over no man's land over the line, or you're defending, or you're flying patrol on your side sometimes. The boxes on the left in the center there are your skills.
Yeah.
So skills are something, there's standard maneuvers and advanced maneuvers, and you can buy these advanced maneuvers and skills so you can learn how to do a Cuban 8 or a Chandelle or an Immelman or a Split S or whatever. And skills you can only use once per mission. So that's why you have that box there. So once you use it, you flip the counter to the used side. So it adds a little bit of decision making as to when do you want to use your good skills up that are available. And then you pull cards for combat, very similar to Interceptor Ace, the combat system from that regards. You got your front, bottom, you see the orientation. Yep. So if you're tailing the enemy, you turn his airplane butt around the other direction and you're tailing him, or vice versa. Or maybe you have an advantage, so you're sideways. The center bottom is all the damage that can happen to your struts, basically what's holding your wings together, your 3 hits on your tail, and for this particular aircraft, no, 4, it looks like 4. I have to check with Ian on that. I think that's supposed to be a 3.
Okay.
Well, anyway, we're still working on all this, obviously.
Right.
Maybe it is a 4. I'll have to, I don't know. It's been a year since I've looked at this plane. So the different, and of course your engine, rotary engines get an advantage in turning, as everybody who's studied World War I knows, to the right. You also have your wingman box in the bottom right. And that's about it.
That's a good walkthrough. And then I think there's like an operations map, or I think you blended in like the whole front, like where they are.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's all the way
maybe the countries, or how you can talk about the countries represented, and how you sort of have how you've sort of brought in World War I landscape to the.
Yeah. The bases are really can be any of 100 bases in the area at the scale. I mean, they have one. There's one called Douai, but it could be any of 100 bases in that area. There's another one, Mark B, whatever, Verdun, base down there. But you have the whole trench line for the World War I, and so there's what I call major event markers, and this is completely new. I don't have this in any other game. But what's going on is that these major events like Verdun or the Somme or the peace offensives, whatever. So all these different battles are going on. So you put the major event marker on the map. And if you have to fly a mission and ground support for there, you actually get bonus credit for doing that. So it kind of ties the ground war in with the, your tactical situation. So that's kind of fun because it sort of gives you a better sense of history of what's happening in the war. So all the major offensives are in there, Caporetto, whatever.
I'm not sure about Nathaniel's question about oppose. I'm not sure if he means like oppose, you're trying to shoot down as the other side,
yes. There are rules for 2-player. There's it would be one guy could play the German, the other guy, let's just say, for example, one guy could play French, the other guy could play German. But how do they link up? It would have to be a very slight random chance that you're actually going to run into somebody else.
And thanks, Richard, for the comment. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely an intriguing design. So let me do this. I'm going to show a few more of the cards. I pulled a few more cards to show. So we're looking at Albatross. Here's another one, Greg.
D8. Okay.
I'll go ahead and zoom in on it so you can see it a little bit better. The Fokker. D8.
There's an
D10.
earlier model.
Earlier model. So, and there's a lot of them. How many did we say there's now? 47?
This is like by the way, this is a starter. That's a starter German one. Agility of 2, speed 11. Oh no, 9. This is a 211.
There's Newport.
Yeah, 42 aircraft.
Oh, this is the French.
Yeah,
French. And then that's another French plane.
And by the way, there's like, I don't know. It was like Lay's potato chips. Once I started, I couldn't stop. So not only with the airplanes, but with the awards, there's like about 45 awards or 50 awards from the 7 different nationalities. So you can win the War Merit Cross of the Principality of Lippe. You know.
All right.
My
so
favorite.
I want to talk about get into the development of this game. So this is a huge game. So Greg's got he's doing like 2 games in one. There's so much to this game, and as he mentioned, he added that whole campaign overlay as a brand new mechanic.
Yeah,
but it's a little hard to see here, but I pulled out a screenshot of what Ian did. So he came up with some ideas that he presented to you, Ian Cooper. So can you walk us through? It sounds like there's some things being considered that we're going to add to the game, which weren't originally in the scope.
Yeah, I'll just preface this by saying Ian Cooper, my co-game designer here, is essentially insane. And I mean that in the nicest sort of way. So Ian, he's definitely into the role-playing aspects of the situation. He's had some brilliant ideas, like the contact patrol. The game wouldn't be operational without it. But he's definitely has added a ton of files for. Basically, it's sort of generic. The design where you shoot somebody down, but he's developed tables like, all right, if you're at this base and you shoot somebody down, roll these dice, and you actually shot this down over the town of Ponte-Prison or something. It's just insane.
That's great for the game narrative. That's sort of what you. That's what you do. That's what you're known to do. Is you all this narrative for after action reports.
Yeah, I mean, not to this detail. And then he's got he's working on all the serial numbers for all the aircraft. So. You can either choose or randomly.
We're putting it all in the game. All this stuff is being added. This is all new
major
stuff.
Breakthrough of we finally found the serial numbers for the strutters, and I'm like, okay, So I mean, just that kind of level of, and then the actual historical squadrons, if you want a historical name and all that kind of stuff.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, Robert, exactly.
One question from Richard.
Anyway, that's the amount of detail, but these are all optional things. If you don't care where you shoot the guy down, you just want to shoot the guy down and get credit for it, you can do that. If you want to figure out exactly what the village is, where his plane crashed, that's an optional rule. And I'm very big on that because that's important. So you want to keep it playable. There's some people who totally dig on that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I want to know where."
That's great for storytelling because, all these replays are going to have so much detail now of what happened with all these generated results.
No, Richard, I don't have any, Gothas in here or Gigants.
That means a fan person's going to generate them for you because everybody seems to generate add-ons.
Bombers in there, not technically. I mean, some of the aircraft do have the option for bombs, and there are missions where you can bomb the trench lines. So that does happen sometimes, but it's not. You're not actually flying anything like a Gotha or a Zeppelin Strauchen or anything like that. Zeppelin Stocken.
And what Tom says, absolutely correct. These new materials we're adding, thanks to Ian's help, will definitely add,
and with it's optional too, you can add the level that you're comfortable with. I mean, that's the other thing, some people want to know every little detail and some don't. So that's what it is.
Here's an interesting event. Can you shoot down Zeppelins in
the game? That's a different ball of wax there. You can in my game Zeppelin Raider.
Yeah, that's true. So there's a nice see, you're such a genius. You're such a genius. You know how to, sort of a cross sale opportunity. Oh, you want Zeppelins. Okay, that's another game.
No, Michael, but you are allowed to shoot down the observation and barrage balloons. So there are missions to shoot down balloons, like Frank Luke, the Balloon Busters. So there is definitely.
And I think we're doing this or close to this, or we could add this. For not?
I don't have the pitchforks and torches rule. No, sorry, but yeah. So it's but you can shoot down barrage balloons, but not zeppelins. We don't have zeppelins in this particular game.
Well, the Newport Tray have the early rockets as armament.
No, it's mainly just standard armaments for that. The only non-standard armament in the game, I guess, is the 37 millimeter Puteaux on the SPAD 12. I think somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, two-seaters.
There's actually only a couple of two-seaters that you can fly, David. One's the Sopwith Strutter, 1.5 Strutter. You can fly Strutter. I forget the other one, but most of the two-seaters are there as targets. So you're basically, or you're escorting them. So that most of the two-seaters are there for you to shoot down, to be blunt, other than the snipe.
So here's your next game from Martin. Martin's giving you your next game to do.
Yeah. Well,
I think you've got something on these lines. This sounds very familiar to me. That I've seen something about Gotha that you've already worked on, right?
Yeah, I'm already working on that project. I haven't.
Boom. That's called
Boom, dude.
That's called a mic drop moment, right?
Yeah. No, I Gothas are insane. I tell you what, I just I'm a little stuck on some of the details of making the game work, but just learning some crazy stuff. They had some of them had passenger pigeons in them.
Yeah. Oh, really? Wow. And there's Bristols. I know you have Bristols, right?
Oh yeah, Bristols are in there. Oh yes, but that's a target. You don't. Yeah, Bristfit's in there.
Yeah, it's in there. I think I've seen it. I've seen the Bristol, so I think that's accounted for. I'm not sure about the two-seater, unless that's a variation. But I saw Bristol listed. Again, there's going to be like 47, 48 of these guys. These displays, a lot of different plane types. And there's one. There you go. There's Bristol. Yeah, you're holding up the Bristols right there. Are those one-seaters? I think they are. I don't know if that's a two-seater or not. I couldn't tell if there's a two-seater on that one.
Yeah, it's rear guns.
Oh, that's rear guns. Okay.
The other one has twin. What's the difference?
Sounds like it's in. Sounds
rear guns. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't tell. But yes, we have the Bristol Fighter, of course.
And then somebody was asking
earlier. I mentioned the Sopwith 1.5, but yeah, there's a couple of two-seaters you can fly.
And then what about Russians? Somebody was asking about Russians.
No, I didn't go to Russia for a variety of reasons.
Well, it's Western Front A. Sorry, it's Western Front A. So
yeah,
sort of, unless they have really big fuel tanks and deviate, or there.
Other than the title of the game, no. I didn't go there's a lot of reasons I didn't go there. Plus, it was just a huge enough project as it was without having to tackle.
Yeah, this is a very big project. So you got Gotha Raider already as a separate focus, and yeah, there's more planes and other things. I sure like the fan generated. I know there's always a lot of fan generated materials for your designs. People love adding stuff, and or you'll end up doing a new design, new edition, covering something else. So yeah, I expect to see a lot of offshoots based on Western Front Ace. I hope everybody enjoyed seeing, we have the displays. At least we have a lot of the displays done, and we talked about the add-ons to build the game narrative, a very rich game narrative. So I hope everybody has a better idea, Greg, of this is a big project.
It's fun too. We played it at WBC, not the one that was canceled, but a year ago, and had a really good time. Mr. Picaldi can tell you that he actually suggested a role, but he enjoyed it, I'm pretty sure.
The Tide series continue.
That's the fun. That's the good news. Yeah, it's a huge project, and it's the biggest thing I've ever tackled, but it's fun. So I think, and there's enough fans that like the topic that I think it'll be a pretty good hit.
Thanks, Robert, for the kudos. Great preview, Greg, that you gave there. Richard's asking if the Tide series will continue. Pacific Tide, Imperial Tide.
Well, funny you should bring that up. The system really lends itself well to, again, 4 or 5 year conflicts, multi-year conflicts at a operational strategic scale where there's production involved. That's the engine. That's what works.
Okay.
Gee, I don't know. The American Civil War comes to mind.
Yeah.
61 to 65. That sounds like 5 years to me.
House Divided sort of has that feel to it. A House Divided has that box-to-box movement, and that's a fantastic game.
Yes, there's a Civil War. Has been working with Mitch Ledford on that, talking about doing that for 5 years. I don't know. Not sure elsewise. Trust me, I have so much on my plate that I unfortunately haven't thought about the next Tide series.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to do an overtime bonus round with you. If everybody's interested, we're going to talk about some future stuff on the horizon here in a moment. And Ray, thanks for your pre-order, Ray. So Greg, great job. Sold another one of your designs here. Great job. So Richard's asking you real quick before we get into, because we're going to talk about future titles a little bit here. What are you doing? I didn't know you had 2 hours left in the day. We're not working you hard enough, I guess. I thought we had you down to 20 minutes a day, and that was all you had left.
Into the power generator. No, seriously. I mean, in my defense, as I've said before, this is my day job. I mean, if I wasn't designing games, I tend to be a little bit on the ADD side, probably. So. If I'm not designing games, I'm not happy. So well, it is what I do 8 hours a day, essentially. I solitaire actually play games. I play computer games. I'm a big XCOM fan, Sid Meier's Pirates. But I'll take that as a compliment. Yes, I try to stay busy. But again, I mean, it's what I do. It's literally my job 40 hours a week, if not more, because I have nothing better to do.
Yeah, here's some to keep you busy, by the way. They are suggesting American Tide for Revolutionary War, and then Robert's got a great title for Civil War.
Tide of Freedom. Ooh, I like. Oh, wait, let me make my Dr. Evil look.
There we go. And then Dave is asking over on YouTube. Thanks for joining us, Dave. Yeah, we're definitely looking at 2021 because they're the artists we have. We don't have 20 artists. We have the one, to keep it a consistent look. We have the one artist, and there's a lot of components. Lots of components.
Dave, the design's been done for 2 years or 1.5 years, but the problem is it just has so much art. Yeah. And then once the art gets done, I've got to proofread my brains out, and we got to get other people to come in and proofread everything. Yeah, and because artists sometimes, cut and paste the wrong machine gun or what. Yeah. Things happen. I could tell you stories.
It's like, for me, it's Shades of Third World War series, the 4 games in one box. It's going to be a huge release, but it's we're getting near the end, but it's such a huge effort. One component can take 1 to 2 months to get through the proof.
We'll be done with all the art and proofing all the art this year easily. So when do we get it back from the printers is another story.
Another thumbs up on a Pirates theme there for you. So let's talk about a few things going on that we don't have time for. So we're now in the bonus round. Yeah. So I want to show everybody. Could you explain, Greg, what this is right here? So maybe we can talk about this.
Be careful what you wish for. So I didn't want people to think I was being lazy. So I said, hey, I had a fan on Facebook, Lee Smith, great guy, by the way, say, oh, you got to redo Patton's Best. So I pulled Patton's Best out and I said, oh, God.
Hey, there might be a lot of fans of Patton's Best. Watch out. That's a classic Avalon Hill game. Watch out.
Yeah. It's just.
Joe, you just got Joe's attention. He said, what, are you knocking my game? Be careful now. You got to explain.
I get the game completely. It's just, for me personally, it's too tedious. It's kind of like all my friends love what's the game when you're in England? The War of the Roses by
Yeah.
Hill.
Yeah, Kingmaker.
Everybody loves Kingmaker. It's a great game, great design. I'm not saying it isn't. It's just not for me. Well, the same thing with Patent's Best. I see where they went and I see what they did. It was just too much tediousness for me personally. Well, anyway, Lee Smith says, hey, you got to redo Patent's, but make it like your games. And I was like, okay, maybe I could do that. So be careful what you wish for, because I got like 300 people giving it the thumbs up and hearts and all that crap. So I was like, all that Facebook junk. So I'm looking at, you're in command of a tank. It's sort of like my normal solitaire type of game. You're in a tank. If it gets shot out from underneath you, then you can, if there's a better tank available, you upgrade and you keep on trucking. Which, by the way, you may not know, Colonel Creighton Abrams, after whom the Abrams M1 Abrams tank is named after, in World War II, he had 6 tanks shot out from underneath him. Thunderbolt 7 was his last. It was an Easy 8, actually, his final tank. But we think we're going to have about 10 different tanks.
But you really don't know anything about tank combat or warfare or tanks in general, right? I mean, you really, like Mo says here, Maurice Fitzgerald, I mean, World Game Table, great channel, by the way. You really don't know. You're really out of your element here, aren't you?
Yeah. It's people bug me all the time. Why do you do all these submarine games when didn't you were in tanks? And yes, I have actual combat experience, and
that's your picture. That's our big ad for this Compass Games Live. It's a picture of you in your full combat dress.
Yeah, we
tank
battalion, actually, first time around. So I was an armor officer my entire career. So yeah, so I'm finally embracing I don't know what. I always did submarines because I was more interested in it, because I know tanks. I didn't know submarines. Maybe that was it. I don't know.
Do you think this will be more challenging for you because you know tanks so well that since you like to really get the details sort of organized?
No, not at all. The challenging part is I fully understand the importance of being hull down. I fully understand how tanks operate and what being immobilized means and being bogged down and everything. So I have no issues there technically. The issue is it's a much tougher design because, you're under the water. There's enemy ships. That's pretty easy. You're in the sky in your airplane and there's a bomber. Hey, guess what? That's pretty easy. You're in a tank and there's bushes and bocage and terrain and hills, and it's not so easy. So there is such a huge amount of details that impact ground combat much more so than aerial or naval combat, in my opinion.
I'm curious if you're going to try to weave a story around you're part of a certain division which saw action in, say, Western Front, North Africa Front, Russian Front. I'm really curious to see, because for the World War I game, you have that overlay of all the battles or the key events.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's a good point. Hadn't really thought about putting in the major event markers, because this is a little different. It has the heart of the game, the heart of this game, as opposed to, say, Western Front Ace, which has that overlay of the entire trench system across Europe. This is actually has a battle board, and it's more tactical. There's a lot of tactical decisions that have to be made, which is what makes this much more difficult a design than, say, you're up in the sky and there's the enemy bomber and here you go. That's a lot easier to abstract than this. I mean, I want to abstract it. I want it to be fun, and you have to make tactical decisions, but there needs to be enough abstraction that it isn't just so tedious that you never want to play it. And I apologize to the Patent's Best lovers, but that just hit my tedious button on overdrive.
I've seen a lot of similar comments. I was sort of pulling your leg a little bit because a lot of people said, I love the game, but you're right. It could be streamlined.
Yeah, but for some people, they love that, which is fine. Everybody has their different viewpoint, but people who are fans of my games at this point understand, I think, that I lean towards the playability role. It's been mentioned already here tonight. And I believe in playability. And so for me, the struggle with this tank game is going to be keeping it playable and yet
Yeah.
tactical enough that it's I don't want to say makes sense. I want to say is thematic, maybe is the right. I want you to feel like you're actually fighting that tank. And I've done that. So I'm struggling with some of it, but I'm also making great progress too. So I think it's going to be really cool. I want to call it American Tank Ace. So it's in the Ace series, but just with a vehicle instead of an interceptor. So American Tank Ace coming to theaters near you.
I know, Joe, as Joe mentions, there's a popular game GMT released recently that's doing quite well.
I've heard some people really, really like it, and some people have said they thought it was a little tedious. So I would guess that probably I've not seen it, so I can't comment on that game. I've heard good things about Tank Duel, but I think my game will probably
be different. It's going to be different, a different approach.
It'll be probably more playable and a little less complex. I tend to abstract more things to keep the ball rolling.
Well, I was going to say people really appreciate your designer, your style to design and playability, your approach. I mean, they like your style so much. There's really two different groups. There's those that leverage what you've done and do add-ons or their own homebrew kits. Like I remember it started with the hunters, actually. Somebody did that full hunter map, the full mat, canvas mat and everything, which he went crazy. So like a lot of people do add-on components or add to the story. But then there's people that actually end up, they buy right into your design philosophy, which is around playability and narrative. And they go out and they do their own version of a, say, Gregory Smith series type design based on the subject matter that they're experts on. So Ian Cooper did Raiders of the Deep, right, for World War I, which we published.
It was literally the hunter's design, but he modified it here and there. But it,
And then, so what I want to mention in that vein is, I sort of want to close on this note. We have some late breaking news that all happened and transpired within the last week, which means, actually, Bill Thomas knows about one of them. He knows as of yesterday. So this is late breaking news, and one Bill doesn't know about. So we'll make an announcement of sorts tonight. So again, in that similar vein of somebody else taking on, the mantle to take your designs and do it to a different period, you want to tell the audience who Fernando Sola Ramos is and what this is, why I'm mentioning him.
Sola Ramos is an Spanish artillery captain. I'm not sure if he's still on active duty or not, possibly, who took Interceptor Ace and literally made a 1944-45 version where you have ME-262s, Focke-Wulf 190 D9s, a host of other aircraft. Not my gig, Mo. I don't know.
Artillery. Yeah, so that's big news. So Interceptor Ace is going to have a sequel.
Such a gorgeous job that I said, I got to talk to John Krantz. We need to publish this.
Right.
Which is embarrassing for me personally, because in the designer notes of Interceptor Ace, I talked about how I never wanted to do the 44 or 45 version because I felt the system would break down with that many. But there's lots of neat rules for using the jets, the ME-262s and 160 and everything. So it's just, it's mind blowing what this guy did by taking Interceptor Ace and modifying it. And we're going to professionally publish it. At least
Yeah, what's amazing is the artwork. When I first looked at the files, Fernando, again, his name is Fernando Sola Ramos, and he actually has a design background, graphic design skill. So it looks like Interceptor Ace. Like when I saw the files, if I wouldn't have known any better, I thought I was looking at the components to Interceptor Ace, your design, but it's actually his, 44-45 game. But he just, using Photoshop, Adobe Suites, he knows how to do it, and he basically just sort of hit a home run with it.
Yeah. It's just unbelievable. So neat game. So for Interceptor Ace Part 2, 44.
Yeah, what I'm looking to see happen with this one, actually, to Maxwell's point, is this will be a standalone version for sure. It's going to be a standalone game. It's going to stand on its own. But just like Greg's done with his U-boat games, I want to see some kind of a linkage.
You can call it expansion from the viewpoint that it's later in time, but it is a game.
It's a standalone game. I hope, Greg, you can help with, if it's not in there already, maybe it's in there already. I haven't read through all the rules. Is that we can connect the 2 games together for a career. That if you've gone through 44, you can keep going.
We'll make it happen, just like we did Hunters and Hundred.
Exactly. So there's one more. So again, so the big news is, and that's the one that Bill Thomas I told yesterday about, is we have Interceptor Ace 4445 coming. It's a completed design, and we'll try to fast track it as best we can. It comes quite. We have the artwork looks great, so maybe that's going to help us on the timeline. We'll see. But also, there's another name I want to mention tonight, and this is late breaking news. This happened as of an hour before our broadcast started. This just happened, everybody. So this is really just happening in real time. So who is Nigel Hodge, and why are we talking about Nigel Hodge?
Nigel is another, lovable lunatic, and he loved Interceptor Ace to the point was like, where's my Spitfire Ace at? And I went on an interview actually with the Players Aid Cats a couple months ago and said, I'm having conceptual.
I've been bugging you about Spitfire Ace for a while now.
So anyway, I was having conceptual issues, whatever. So Nigel is like, oh, do you mind if I, make Spitfire Ace? I was like,
do you have it there? Do you have little components printouts of it?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is somebody again has taken your engine, and there we go.
Of course, of a card, but we will, the game, it's good. So Nigel did an awesome job on this. 2 thumbs up.
Yeah. And
it deserves to be published by Compass, and I think they're gonna agree.
I just found out about it, so I have to get the agreement.
Not yet. Am I kidding?
Yeah, I'm not. There's nothing signed yet, so I have to work quickly. Thanks for helping contact him. And
I was telling John before the show, I said this game design gig is pretty easy when you get people to do your job for you. Isn't
that like with Stephen King, the author? Doesn't he have like a farm of authors that help him? Or I don't know. I've heard some stories where he's got a whole.
Very flattering on one hand, but on the other hand, it's very exciting because when somebody does a really, there's been other mods that have been like, yeah, okay, nice, go back to kindergarten, whatever. This stuff is top notch and really good work on adapting the Interceptor Ace rules to the appropriate time frame, whether it's 44-45 in the case of Fernando's work, or whether it's Battle of Britain for Nigel's work. Fantastic jobs by both of these gentlemen. These will be really good games if you like the series. So I'm excited.
Right.
No complaints. I'm humbled to have fans that they're just talented.
That's amazing. So it's amazing to think under your series we have 2 fully baked games. And then for Interceptor Ace 44-45, we even have the artwork because the person's also an artist who can actually, he's up for the job and he's delivering on that. So that's going to be exciting. And then for Nigel's game Spitfire Ace, love the topic Battle of Britain. Think that's just brilliant.
Yes, so, I believe it's a fully owned subsidiary of Omni Corporation. Right?
There we go. So, and I just want to mention, what Nathaniel says, it's not so far from the truth that, we love working with all designers at Compass, and we're always asking for new designs. I've had Christopher Davis on. I think he's under 35 years of age. He's a new designer. We're youthful, and he's got all these design ideas. And we did an Operation Storm 333 playthrough a few weeks ago, and we love working with all designers. But obviously, Greg, I think, as everybody realizes here for Compass, Greg, really holds a sort of a special place at Compass, given all the work he does, all the designs. We didn't cover everything he's doing, by the way. We're not going to get through everything tonight, but to
piggyback on your point about designers, we're all smartass. So many people are really designers in their hearts. They just maybe don't know it. But I had a guy come up to me and ask, for advice. And he was maybe a little hesitant. I said, dude, approach Compass. At the very least, you're going to get a fair hearing for what it's worth. And to point out, I started off obviously as just a war gamer myself. Yeah. Well, what happened? I came up with the design. First company that'll go unnamed that I pitched it to, poo-pooed it, told me, have a nice day, go eat your ice cream, go away. Second company I pitched it to gave me a ridiculously horrible, stupid offer of nothing almost. Not that we make much with a good offer. And the third time was the charm when I met Mr. Krantz. So, just hang in there, stick with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's,
Compass will at least listen to you. I've had nothing but good experiences.
yeah, it's been,
all right. I'm off my soapbox. Sorry.
all right. No, that was wonderful. So absolutely, designers and artists, everybody, there's, and I gotta say the audience here. So the audience here, having 50 plus people, consistently, for live, and then of course the viewership afterwards for the recorded session. I mean, the audience doing the proofreading, the play testing. I mean, everybody does so much here. It's it's great having the designers and the artists, but like Bill would say, the most exciting part is talking to customers and all that. It's just I
do love feedback's so good, especially
absolutely great. What everybody does for us is amazing.
My games have been from customer suggestions, basically. So
yeah, absolutely. So
guys, because you're the end users.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you guys aren't happy with what I'm designing, then what's the point? I'm trying to make people. I'm a war gamer too, so
and you do a great job. I want to give you kudos, a hat tip on all the game support. You get very quick responses. If I get emails, I'm able to forward them to you, and you answer them same day without exception. So the amount of support you give for so many titles now is amazing. So to try to recap what we've covered today. I haven't breathed in an hour, even though you've done, thankfully it's been you talking, not me so much, but we've covered Defending America, which I just have a rules index left to do. So that one's basically at the printer already. So that's right above me here. We talked about then Imperial Tide, and we saw a beautiful map, all mounted, single map variety. It's going to be a wonderful game, and very playable, as we talked about. We got into what everybody, I think, was really interested in, seeing something about Western Front Ace. So I'm glad we could show some of the displays behind that and talk about, the key events and battles and how it all comes together, and some of the additional pieces now being added to the scope of the game for the storytelling part. And then you showed Goth Raider. You've showed Goth Raider, which wasn't planned. So we did that. We did the Patton's Best thing about tank.
Tank Ace.
Yeah, American Tank Ace. We did that one. Then we've got
last night. So all you people think I'm slacking, get off.
Interceptor Ace 4445, Spitfire Ace by our two new contributors / designers. So we've covered
neat stuff.
A lot of. I hope everybody's excited about what we covered tonight. And again, just a reminder, the games we talked about are on pre-order right now. Somebody asked also, what's the status on Pacific Tide, Raiders of the Deep, etc., that are on reprint right now. I believe the plan is to get them ready before the holidays, for the winter holidays, to celebrate the holiday season. And when our catalog also goes out before then, that you can restock and get those games, get those Gregory M. Smith games that have sold out. So we'll have those back in stock. So just to answer that question about timing of those reprints that are already on pre-order. So a lot of exciting stuff going on. Greg, as always, it was exciting and exhausting at the same time, trying to keep up with you and all the things you've got always to show.
It's not even the manic part. Usually I'm a little more manic than this. You can ask.
And I recommend to everybody, just do a Google search on Gregory Smith interview war games, and you'll find them on Player's Aid, on Moe's Gaming Table, on No Enemies Here, on other sites. Probably, you could probably target your search for just within the last year or within the last month. So there's you just finished an interview that hasn't been published yet.
I may not be perfect, but I try to at least be accessible. So, I just finished an interview with Grant Kleinhans on from the Player's Aid on for Defending America, which is very timely since it's going to be out soon. So, and he's got some production artwork too that'll be included. It's none of my homemade charts. He's got some final art in that interview. It's a text interview, so that will be on soon. That should be up, I imagine, in a couple of days. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for the Player's Aid, but it seems like it'll be within a few days anyway.
And then thank you, Jason. Yeah, I'm familiar with Jason from the Constant World News Desk. He does some great stuff that I post on Constant World News. So definitely, Jason, at Compass, we're trying to do a better job with outreach for all the great support you guys provide, all the great support you give to the hobby. Mo's Gaming Table, No Enemies Here, Dan Bacaldi, everybody does such great work to support the hobby. That's why we're here. Great community that we have. So I think with that, thanks, Faye. Thanks for everybody for joining. Again, just a great turnout as always. Really appreciate all your support. Thanks for supporting Greg and his designs. We'll ask for help in the future, I'm sure, with proofreading and all that we do. If you have an interest in the tank game, anything new that he's working on, we'll make announcements for sure. But Greg, I'll give you the final word before we sign off officially for this evening.
I just want to say real fast that I'm appreciative and humbled by the support that you guys show me. And, I get lots of emails saying I appreciate, that your game designs. And that means a lot to me because I ain't doing it to get rich. I appreciate the fact that you guys are having fun with something I created. That's how I get my kind of personal satisfaction. And I am thankful. So I'm thankful to all you folks for playing the games and enjoying it and telling other folks you enjoy it. So we're a small enough hobby, I think that's a good thing.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I want to, again, Greg, thank you so much for all that you do. Great update on so many topics tonight. I'll have the recording up tomorrow for everybody. Also, just a reminder that next week, Thursday on the 20th, will be our Town Hall number 6 with Bill Thomas. And as promised, always, we'll raffle off a free game. We love bribing people, and Bill's done a great job at giving away, I think, new releases when he can. So I think really great great prizes that we give off. So that's going to be next Thursday, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. And then in 2 weeks, when I come back in 2 weeks, I'll be looking to do another game design interview. We're going to do another project update, and that one's going to be on Fall of Tobruk with Chris Fawcett. So again, that's also on pre-order on our webpage. So in 2 weeks, we'll have Chris Fawcett on as our designer guest, and we'll talk about his new design, Fall of Tobruk, and we'll be showing a lot of the components and talking about the game then. So again, Greg, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time tonight. Have a great rest of your week and weekend, everybody. And great shirt, by the way. We got to get one to Bill Thomas. Bill needs more shirts to wear during the town hall, so we'll need to send him some of your shirts there for Bill Thomas. And again, everybody, I want to wish you a great night. Have a great weekend. Stay safe wherever you are, and hope to see you next Thursday for Town Hall number 6. Good night, everybody.
All right.